Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Force Weekly, brought to you by GeneralsJoes Reborn.com with me, Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80. For today's episode, I am joined by the awesome Patrick Notpicard Stewart. In this regular video series, we round up all the week's news in the world of G.I. Joe. Pat, take it away.
It's the Full Force Weekly.
Threw you, didn't it? Because I didn't actually ask you the question as to what it was.
I was thinking to myself that it was the Christmas Full Force Weekly, but then I realized we're not quite there yet.
No, not yet.
I'm giving a pause.
Not yet. I've been trying to work out how the hell we're even going to do any of this, because I'm going to have no time at all. I know you're going to be absolutely locked in. Justin's going to be busy. Adam's going to be under it. Paddy, I think, is the only one that can actually do it. It's just going to be me and Paddy, I think. It's just going to be Paddy. I'll just get Paddy to record it on his own, and he can do his own Christmas special. It's just ramping up, isn't it? It's becoming like Christmas just takes over, doesn't it? Every bloody year. It makes time just kind of turns into this much shorter thing.
Yeah, I start shopping for Christmas in August every year, and I don't make it. It doesn't happen.
It's crazy.
Ideas for people. I don't find things, and this year, of course, it's much more difficult.
Well, we're probably gonna have to record that very soon, our special, and it's not going to be the usual top threes, because if we get everyone and do top threes again, it's going to destroy me. So we'll probably do something like our favourite toys, G.I. Joe related from the year, and then the New Year's.
Well, then, with that in mind, my favourite toy is a tie for three different ones.
Brilliant. And then Pat's like, here's my top three. Oh, you. Anyway, let's get. Well, it's been a very eventful week this week. Not a lot of news stories, but obviously quite a big major news story this week. So I think you all know what I'm talking about. Yes, guys, it's bag clips. I'm just kidding. But let's get into our first. Let's get into our first news story of the week, Pat. In merch news. For the most part, we try to be on top of the G.I. Joe merchandise on this channel, but I'm not afraid to say that these next items slipped us by like Pythona infiltrating the Terradrome. Yes, Entertainment Earth have posted pre-orders for a brand new set of G.I. Joe 3D figural foam bag clips from Monogram International. The items are 2 inches in size and are based on the vintage core characters from G.I. Joe and Cobra. The set consists of 9 main characters: Duke, Snake Eyes, Roadblock, Scarlet, Cobra Commander, Baroness, Crimson Guard, Storm Shadow and Destro, and 2 chase figures, Bazooka and Cobra Officer. They come individually blind bagged and are set for a January 2022 release. Well, this set is, but they're already out there pretty much. The entire case assortment of 24 will set you back $143.99, and there's a random 6-pack option $34.99. Don't ask where they came from, we have no idea, but if you are interested, we have links for both purchase options in the description below. I think they are super cute and could be a lot of fun just as a one-off purchase if you see them in stores next year. I know I would probably have to pick a few up. Anyway, Pat, what do you think about these little clips?
They're all right. I've seen these before with other brands. I didn't actually know about the G.I. Joe ones, otherwise I would have mentioned it. It's amazing to me how much stuff you cover, and yet these just...
How'd they get through? How do they get through the net?
There's just so much G.I. Joe. That's what it is. This year, there's just a ton of G.I. Joe stuff.
You also sent me a video, didn't you, it was like from Monogram International, and they were doing like an unboxing of the G.I. Joe stuff, and it's from 2 months ago. I'm like, how did that happen?
It amazes me because, I go on YouTube looking at G.I. Joe stuff. How many times a week? Probably 6 or 7 days a week. And YouTube was like, official licensee? Nah, we won't do that.
That's like Facebook and all of my feeds. Like I try and cultivate them to make them like, follow loads of the important licensees and follow obviously Hasbro and all that kind of stuff. And then Hasbro drops something and I don't see it on my feed until it's 30 minutes old. And I'm just like, goodness sake, what am I even doing on here? I need to know this stuff. So it's like a constant refresh battle, but you're having to go over multiple different pages and refresh pages all the time. it's a battle, isn't it? It's like a full-time job trying to keep up with this stuff.
Yeah, and I wonder where else these were available, because Entertainment Earth lists a set of 24. There was a different case count. Was it 16 or 36? I can't remember.
Not sure.
Regardless, the video mentioned that no matter which case you pick them from, there will still only be one bazooka and one Cobra officer per case. So they are definitely going to be the harder ones to get if you do.
Yeah, big time. It's always the way, though, isn't it? I mean, I remember like Loyal Subjects and all those kind of ones. And the fact that they don't do, you know, like the classic was that the code would change, or there would be like some sort of signifier on the bag that would indicate what it was. I know in some of the Micro Machines kind of blind bags, you can see through the little window. There's like a little tiny gap to see through, isn't there? Like there's all sorts of things like that. And I like blind bags. I think they're kind of cute and everything. But when you start throwing in really difficult things to find, I don't know, it just becomes like a... And especially now, the blind bags aren't cheap. Like as a kid, blind bag stuff was like super, super cheap. Like, or you'd buy, you know, sticker packs, and you wouldn't know if you're getting the shiny sticker in there, but you'd buy like tons and tons of stickers to do it because you could swap them easily and they were cheap. But you're talking now, Loyal Subjects were like friggin' $12, weren't they? And sometimes even more in individual cases. And, you know, things like that. And so you kind of think there's no way, even with disposable income, that you can really, you know, do this in the wild. It has to be like buy a whole like case and open them, you know. It just seems like, I don't know, like a difficult thing to really be a collector for.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably sit there in the store and feel the bag to see if you could find Bazooka's weapon, but I think Cobra Officer would be hard to find. And these... Having seen the other ones of these, I don't think this is something that you could take the clip off of and have them stand up like a figure. I really don't think that's what the deal is here. It's just kind of a nicely detailed, puffy plastic kind of toy that's going to dangle. So,
also, don't think I'm going to let you go by without mentioning it about touching Bazooka's weapon, because you're not going to get by without me mentioning that. Feeling on his bag and touching his weapon. But yeah,
I thought I got away with it.
Well, what you cleverly did was you kept talking and didn't allow me to like sneak in and say it. So I commend you for that. But I have a dirty mind like a elephant. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they're the foam bag clips. I think they're really cute. I think, you know, again, it's very much in that kind of exaggerated big head kind of design and everything. We've had it so many times, but I think as like a little impulse purchase, I'll probably jump on a few of these. I don't think I'm going to be rushing out to try and get every single one, but they're fun. And like I said, if I see them in like a GameStop or a grocery store, or, you know, I don't know where they're actually going to be sold. I imagine just the usual places. Hot Topic.
I would imagine maybe we would have seen them already if they were going to be a brick and mortar anywhere near us.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Then again, I haven't really been looking, but we'll see. We'll keep you updated, and hopefully we won't let any more slip by in the news over the next week or so. Next up, in kind of like very difficult for Pat and I to unravel comics news. So last week, Bleeding Cool reported that a number of IDW's brand licenses were coming to an end next year, including Transformers and G.I. Joe, but also that they may lose the opportunity to renew. Well, Bleeding Cool once again posted an article, this time claiming that Image Comics is looking like a possible landing spot for both Transformers and G.I. Joe. Image, of course, published G.I. Joe comics before through the Devil's Due Press imprint. They also published Dreamwave titles prior to Dreamwave going their separate ways to produce Transformers comics before going bankrupt, owing Hasbro millions. Bleeding Cool mentioned that no official word has been given on any of these rumours, including the recent job vacancy of Executive Editor-in-Chief. That's John Barber's previous role, of course. There seems to be something going on at IDW, but until we get official word on this, we will have to take these rumours for what they are right now. It does feel as though there will be changes in 2022. I just hope we can get to issue 300 of A Real American Hero and that brand new miniseries Saturday Morning Adventures. Like I said, we will keep you updated with any developments on this story, and in the meantime, go and read all the old Image comics just to get you in the mood again. Pat, thoughts on this? Do you think... I mean, obviously there's no smoke without fire a lot of the time. We're not really... I mean, we do speculate on the show, and we do talk a little bit, in terms of rumours and stuff like that, but there seems to be more to this, doesn't there?
Yeah, I still think that it could end up staying with IDW. I mean, until contracts are signed, nothing is official. That's just how the truth of situations go. So I don't know anything about this myself. I think that anytime something is a contract is going to be up, people tend to post about it. In fact, whenever I was looking this up to see if there was any other information, if you just Google this, you come across all the other times where the license was coming due. So it could still be nothing, but Bleeding Cool posting it makes me think maybe they do know something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Rumors, that's how rumors expand when they do. It seems like somebody knows something, and so it's given more credence than maybe it should. I don't know. This could be something. I really don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, totally. I'm obviously we're all in the same boat here, and I think that trying not to kind of spread it so that yes, Image are getting the license, because we don't obviously know that, but like it's that kind of thing of it was mentioned in a couple of the articles that they posted that the journalist has got sources, he just can't divulge them for obvious reasons. So that obviously makes me think, obviously there's a lot of talk going on internally here, and I think and also in the past they've posted a long list of where these kind of rumors have emerged, where they're losing a license, or where they're, I think it happened with like that kind of Marvel tie-in they were doing, the kids comic kind of Marvel tie-in, the Star Wars shifting kind of companies and stuff, and again they talked about, they posted the articles which again were about kind of having some source information internally, but also still being rumor at that point, and then obviously that it happened. So there's a track record here for Bleeding Cool kind of releasing this information, but it kind of coming to fruition. And I'm sure there's like articles they've done where it hasn't come to fruition. Obviously there is when it comes to these things, they will post their wins, not their losses. But I kind of feel like, being in a similar situation where I get a lot of kind of like inside information, I'll, hold a lot of it. Some of it will like be reported in a certain way for obvious reasons. So I know that they're not just going to post this if there's no real substance to it. So I'm kind of like, at the moment, I'm just kind of like waiting on, and you're right, there's that thing of if the contract isn't signed, then it isn't official. And there's still time for people to change minds, to maybe go a different direction, to choose a completely different one, to stay with the, have IDW stay with it. So there's all these options that are still up in the air, and usually it just renews. So I think there's a lot of talk going on, and we just trying to unravel it. It's very difficult. I mean, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to see IDW keep it, or would you like to see it freshened up elsewhere? Not necessarily with Image, but somewhere else.
I think you already mentioned what I would like to see. Obviously, the Saturday morning comics looks great, and I love the fact that we still have comics from Larry Hama coming, and those are the things that I would like to see continue. It could also be that Saturday morning comics, maybe the Saturday morning comics they're putting out now, because they know that that's going to be a popular thing with fans, and that it's going to encourage the license to stay with them. That could also be a matter of timing. I didn't really think anything of this with the last bit of news, because I do think that it's easy for news sources to remember whenever a license, because whenever the licenses are signed, they usually announce, it's for 3 years or for 10 years or however long it may be. And then just speculate at the end of it, hey, they may be losing the license just because it's coming up again, and that would be a time where it could switch. And then if it doesn't, no big deal.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different than just insider information. But now Bleeding Cool posts information that maybe it could be specifically going to IDW, which is more than just speculating at the end of a license that the license may be lost. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm really curious, since they mentioned Image, is this going to be Image proper handling it, or is it going to be another imprint that Image is going to publish it on behalf of somebody else.
Yeah, obviously the convoluted history of G.I. Joe and Image comics, yeah. I just always assumed, I think, from day one that it was Image that... I think like the first comics that came out had the Image logo on them, didn't they, basically? Top left, Image logo, and then it switched to Devil's Due Press, like, you know, further down the line. But obviously, I wasn't aware that the two were kind of effectively the same thing at the time. Or there was a... yeah, you're right, the DDP was like the imprint of Image at the time, and they just published things through... you know, for them until they could go on their separate ways, kind of thing. So, yeah, it's quite an interesting legal minefield, really, isn't it? When you try and start really digging into the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, it is. So I guess in a couple of months we'll know. That's probably how long it'll be.
Yeah, well, exciting, I guess.
Yeah, or as I did do right before this episode, I did do a Google search to see if there was any new news. And I didn't see anything. It's also possible that the news will break as soon as we're done here, and then everything we say right now will be wrong by the time this episode is posted.
What we should do is we should do the alternate endings to this particular thing. Which is just,
I can't believe it. Image did get the license.
How about this one? It's going back to Marvel. Can you believe
Whoa.
that? We'll do one more. Can you think of any others? Boom. Bloody Boom have got it. I did not expect that.
Yeah, and it's G.I. Joe Extremes coming back. I didn't expect them to say that they were going to publish that again.
Right, so if you're watching this, choose any of those alternate endings for this particular segment, and you're gravy. Right, Pat, we'll move on then, buddy. And this is we've saved it till last, but probably the biggest news of the week, and one that had us glued to our laptops and phones, like for, I would say 48 hours, actually. And so let's get into HasLab news. Like you didn't already know, yes, the mighty HasLab campaign came to a triumphant conclusion on Tuesday evening, reaching its funding backer goal of 10,000 well in advance of its deadline, and it ticked over during our very own live stream, which you can check out on our YouTube channel right now if you like. Emily had previously posted a fun parachute test drop video on the Hasbro Pulse Instagram page, followed by a special live stream in which Lenny joined in to discuss the Skystriker as the inevitable 10,000 backers loomed near. Due to a massive internet issue, the website stopped showing backers around 9,924, and even though we sort of knew they had reached the goal, nobody could officially say so, which meant that our following stream got the chance to be there as it ticked over once again. History made. With a solid amount of time remaining, we all waited very impatiently for the backer count to advance, but due to the online issues, Hasbro had to manually push the info every 100 or so backers, so there would be minutes between updates. Eventually, the ticker was restored to normal, and we watched in awe as the backer count rose first to 13k, unlocking Flight Suit Scarlet, and then finally reaching Nightforce Ripcord at 16,000 comfortably. There was a moment with a few minutes to go where it genuinely looked like it could hit the final stretch goal, but alas, it topped out at 16,779, falling short of the highly desired Pit Crew 2-pack. All in all, it was a huge win for the brand, and a very surprising outcome considering the sad failure of the Star Wars Black Series Rancor just 24 hours earlier. Now, Pat, this was a kind of fun one to follow because we were all in the group and we were all talking to each other and we were all like following it. It was quite exciting actually, wasn't it? Especially when it started kind of really motoring.
Yeah, this is probably I think this is the second HasLab that I've backed, I think. And I felt a lot more invested in this one because it's G.I. Joe. Not that I'm not closely tied to Transformers, but I think that I'm just quite used to Unicron's, being developed, then not happening. And that one I think had funded a little bit earlier, a little bit more in advance than the Skystriker did. And there was a lot more uncertainty coming off of the Rancor. Like if Star Wars the day beforehand had fallen down and not managed to reach its minimum funding goal, then what did that mean for G.I. Joe? So it was definitely a nail-biting 24 hours for me.
It was, wasn't it? But it was also kind of fun. Like even though the pit crew didn't get unlocked, I think prior to that, we'd all discussed it on record. We thought that it would fund. I still had my concerns, but we thought it would probably reach funding goal. And then it would obviously possibly reach Scarlet. Very, very, like a stretch, and pun intended. But we actually, watching it and the way it developed, we get Scarlet, and then it just motors through to Night Force Ripcord, absolutely motors through. And then we're kind of thinking, well, it could actually get the pit crew. So, I think our mindsets had kind of adjusted at that point, and we were kind of disappointed at the end, even though I would say it was probably a massive win for the brand to reach 16,000 plus.
Oh, for sure. This was a big day for G.I. Joe. I would think that Hasbro's sitting quite happy that G.I. Joe has done this well for them. And yeah, it would be nice to get I'm sure everyone who wants a 6-inch HasLab, that's still potentially out there in the future, although I'm almost a little more nervous now for them, because the fact that at this point there have been several 3 3/4-inch HasLab. Like, if you separate things rather than looking at it as Star Wars and G.I. Joe, if you look at it as 6-inch and 3 3/4, all the 3 3/4-inch stuff has funded, and the Rancor, it didn't fund.
That was sad, wasn't it?
It is. And honestly, I don't think that means that a Rancor will never happen, because that thing had, what was it, 900 different paint operations, and how many points of articulation in the hands.
Loads.
I think that a Rancor could happen in the future, because they could just give it rubbery hands and remove all that articulation and drop the price down, remove some of the paint operations, just remove some things. If people didn't want it at that price, maybe it can have less features, or fewer features, I should say.
And then a retail release. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and do a retail release. Exactly. But that's still going to be a large toy for a large price. So I don't know. I mean, how big it is, physically large it is always going to be one of the challenges of doing anything for a 6-inch HasLab. So we'll see, but this is still, for the G.I. Joe brand, a major win. And for me personally, I really wanted to see those figures happen. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think you can't really complain with it, can you? Again, obviously the pit crew would have been cool and would have been really nice. Yeah. But and people were saying, they should have extended it a little bit. I don't think it would have actually made a difference, because I think everyone that went in on it. Everyone knew it was happening. Everyone knew it was coming to a close. Everyone was watching it, and everyone who was backing it was backing it. So I don't think people backed out because the pit crew weren't going to get there. Do you know what I mean? Possibly that could have been the case, but I don't think it really would have got that much more. I think we probably maybe might have topped out about 17k, but you obviously still had another 1,000 backers to go at that point. So yeah, I think it definitely maxed as much as it could, but it's still way beyond what I thought was going to happen. And I was really happy, and doing the live stream was a lot of fun. I mean, it went on for about 2 hours, but it was absolutely so much fun to just talk with loads of people, see them getting excited for it. And this wasn't even coming up to the end of it. This was just as it ticks over to 10,000. So people were excited to see it moving. I had no idea it was going to reach as far as it did. I said on the thing, I think Night Force Ripcord might be a stretch too far, but I think Scarlet is within reach, because at that point we had ages left. We had about, I don't know how many hours, a lot of hours left. So yeah, really happy with it. Really happy with the way that they handled this one. Yeah, just really cool. I was so worried that we would have been in a position where, it didn't fund, right? Didn't make it. And then we'd be in this position of not seeing a HasLab for G.I. Joe for a long time afterwards. I think with it funding the way that it funded, I think G.I. Joe has made it a brand for Hasbro to say, yes, there's a good option. You're going to get a lot of money for a HasLab in the future, no matter what kind of 6-inch, another 3 3/4-inch, 4-inch modern, whatever you want to call it. I think they've definitely seen now that the brand has got some value to it.
Yeah, well, not only that, but it was a matter of launching the O-ring stuff, because obviously we're definitely getting Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, but there was part of me that was wondering, if this fails, how much backing are they going to give this new O-ring segment that they're working on for G.I. Joe, that from the sounds of things, when they're talking about the Skystriker, they have huge plans for the O-ring line going forward. And as soon as it funded, like we weren't even a Scarlet yet, and my mind was finally,
you've unlocked the O-ring for the rest of the years. Yeah.
In my head, finally my disbelief was gone, and I finally allowed myself to start wondering what other things we may get. And one of the first things that came to mind was, I hope that we get a ripcord and a parachute pack, because I do love the idea of making those parachutes out of cloth.
Oh yeah.
In order to be more durable. And if they could do that with a Skystriker, why not do that with the old mail-in parachute? And they've already got ripcord, the 3D model ready. So I think that would be a great set as well.
Totally. Yeah. So standard deco ripcord, you know, all that good stuff with the parachute to come along with it as well. That, yeah, you're right, 100%. There's, yeah, obviously, I think Hasbro now, like the thing is, they look, when they design anything, the thought is, how can it be reused? How can we reuse the tooling? And that's almost like point A, isn't it? Like on the list, it's like, before the design even happens, can it be retooled? Can it be reused? So I think, obviously, we're going to see Cobra Commander in his normal version. Obviously, that's going to happen. The Cobra Trooper in the standard, as we know it, deco, well, just without those cool little outline knee pad things. Although I do like that on the Sunbow inspired Cobra Trooper. And like stuff like that. Is how can we reuse that tooling? Now, the fact I feel like it's almost like I feel like Lenny and Emily have tricked the company into forcing them to do the pit crew at some stage by doing the Snake Pit crewman, right? Because that body now exists. How are we reusing it? Well, we're going to be reusing it with the pit crew at some point. So I think that they've almost like, made it so that even though it's a far off kind of stretch goal, that it was almost like, well, let's lock it in now because we're going to need to reuse this tooling at some point.
Yeah, I really was wondering what that means. The fact that we didn't reach those, what does that mean in a HasLab? If those stretch goals aren't met, is that something that they will still offer? Because the only other comparisons that I have are, say, Yak Face from Sail Barge, and the Sail Barge did make it. Yet Yak Face also came to retail. So what does that mean for the stretch goals? Are you just getting something that may come out in another way anyway? Or is this something that if we don't hit that goal, you will just never get it at all? It will be something that's left unreleased.
I would say that we obviously look at a lot of this like at the time, don't we? Like in the moment we look at it. Now, I think HasLab is slightly different, and then it's almost like its own like moving, developing creature. Like it grows and it changes and it evolves into something different. And obviously, if you follow the narrative, it's like, we spoke to Emily and she even said on like, in other aspects, and Lenny as well, that, they change their mind about things and they bring this in because this is now going to make this more valuable. And then they, if that isn't reached, they think about ways, well, how can we get it to, they're not thinking like in the future, well, that's not going to get reached, so we'll bring it out in the future. They're hoping it gets reached so that it gets released within that ecosystem, as it were. And then obviously if it doesn't, they start thinking then, well, how can we get it to the fans? So I feel like it's always this developing thing. It's never like the decision is made, if that makes sense. So because of the nature of HasLab, I feel like, a lot of people might look at it and think, from a cynical point of view and think, well, they were always going to come out. That isn't necessarily the case, though. I think they want them to come out, though. So they're going to think of ways to get them to the fans. They're not just going to go, right, well, you didn't make it, so that's done. They obviously know that people want this stuff. Well, they wouldn't have put it right at the other end of the stretch goal. Do you know what I mean? Right at the end.
Yeah, and it almost would feel silly to develop things and to spend the money on development and put them out as a stretch goal, which a stretch goal always should be only attainable with a stretch. It shouldn't necessarily be a shoe-in.
Yeah.
So if they're going to spend the money developing it, but at the same time, I really could see that maybe down the road them releasing either yellow or red, but not both. or releasing something slightly different. So I'm curious to see whether or not we actually ever get those figures.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to as well. And obviously let us know in the comments if you'd like to see those and how you'd like to see them. Like, would you like to see them in the 2-pack? Would you like to see them single carded? Would you like to see them in another set? Because it could be quite a cute thing to do some sort of little deluxe set, wouldn't it? And have like, you know, the 2 figures and maybe some kind of like accoutrement for their pit or the, you know, little kind of like engine bits and pieces or little.
Here's a good idea for an accessory that they could come with. They could come with a USS flag.
I thought you were getting all serious and you were going to literally drop one on me, and you did, but it was a joke. And also, yeah, let's just bring him out with the flag. Maybe it'll happen. We'll see. Next HasLab. One more thing I wanted to mention, Pat, was your expectations for artwork, because obviously we haven't seen any of the artwork yet. Ace hasn't had a single kind of carded piece of artwork released in retail, because he hasn't had a single release like that. For that particular version, I mean. I know we've had Ace as the direct-to-consumer one, and we've had... the
25th one was in a comic pack and it had art, but
yeah. In any case, he hasn't really had it for the retail,
right?
Has he? So, what are you thinking there? You thinking? Because I know obviously that there's a classic Ace piece of artwork in Action Force comics when they did the file bios. So you'd get like the red, white, and blue page with the Action Force logo, and then it'd be like Codename Ace, and they'd have the artwork and then the text, and it's him basically standing with his hands on his hips, giving it the big one. So how would you want to see him kind of done as a single carded figure?
I like the idea of it referencing maybe a classic pose, but at the same time, I really just want it to replicate that Garrido style as much as possible. Like, whichever artist picks this up, I really hope that is what it looks like.
How good would like an angle from like just kind of like the front of the nose cone, right, or just off to the side of the nose cone of the Skystriker, and him climbing up the ladder in full, like you could see him in full, like looking to the right, kind of like looking out as he's climbing up the ladder to the Skystriker. What do you reckon?
You know, I was thinking that, and that'd probably be a beautiful painting, but I don't think that vehicle drivers included, like in the vintage run, I don't think vehicle drivers included their vehicle in their art.
Well,
usually vintage, just the picture from the box.
Vintage, you're 100% correct, but they did do, was it skid/treadmark with his foot up on the back of the Desert Fox.
Really? What was that? When was that?
For the FSS release.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm hoping these aren't necessarily a continuation of the FSS style. I really want to dive deep and make sure that these things stick with the 1982 to 1994 style. Varying too much outside of that style isn't going to make these feel like the vintage style figures that I'm hoping that they are.
So more of just a dynamic pose then is what you're wanting.
Yeah, that's really what I want. I just want a dynamic pose. I noticed that it's a little weird in some of the pictures that they've shown us. It's been Wayne Ruthell that has pistol, and in other times it's Ace or it's both. I don't know who comes with what. But this would be the first time Ace has actually come with an accessory. So I'm hoping to see that with the figure.
Apart from his fishbowl.
Apart from the helmet, correct.
But yeah, you're right. There's no like little weapon or anything he's had in the past.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess we'll find out when they do the actual card, because they're going to come on separate cards as well, aren't they? So that'll be cool. I'm interested to see how they do Wayne Ruthell. I'm interested to see... again, like, you know, it'll be like a dynamic pose, or if they'll do something alongside, you know, the vehicle, or if they'll do, you know, I'm interested to see how it goes completely. Ripcord too, because there's another one with the Ripcord situation. First time it'll be a single carded Night Force figure, so that's interesting. So they're gonna, you know, obviously give it the Night Force design, but on a single card. And then obviously what they did in the past was they would use their original versions and effectively do the paint over, wouldn't they, and do the same pose and everything. So are you expecting a similar thing with Ripcord there? Are you expecting just like a similar version 1 pose?
I definitely think that would be cool if that's what ends up coming out. That feels like it's in keeping with the original Night Force. One of the things there's a lot of I have a lot of thoughts on Ripcord. So, well, yeah, I won't even get into that. But yeah, I would like to see something like that. Sure.
I know you're going to say the Tampo, right?
I was, yes, because that's the thing that's been bothering me the most. Both the Night Force one that I don't really think it should be there. Definitely, I don't feel it should be on the side of his arm if it's there at all, because none of the Night Force figures had the Night Force logo on them. And I was playing around the other day with, what would I do with Night Force Ripcord just to play around with it to see it for myself, because my brain has been there. But also, if they do make a version 1 Ripcord, I really wanted to have the Tampo on his arm that we talked about that several episodes ago, if you'll recall,
yeah,
in regard to patches. And I just would love to see that returned to the figure, since it's there in the art and it didn't end up on any of the Ripcord figures. It was costed out, I assume.
Awesome. So you, and then I assume you'd like to see that on when they do the standard Ripcord as well.
Well, I want to see it on the standard Ripcord, but really thinking it through on the Night Force one, do any of the Night Force figures have a Tampo that carries over from their original version?
Yes, but it's pretty obvious. Outback.
Right.
But obviously, but that's obvious, isn't it? Because it's the T-shirt. Like,
are there any of them that have patches on their arms that carry over?
Off the top of my head, I don't believe so. No, I don't think they did, mate. I don't think they had anything on them, Tampo-wise. So, yeah.
So, I mean, if they're going to have
keep that fresh.
If they're going to have a Tampo at all on Ripcord, I think I probably would prefer it to just be his, like, a different color or something of the version 1. And honestly, even if it is just the version 1 one, it was red, and that actually does fit with Night Force. So I think that would be cool. Whenever I look at the Night Force team, I don't know. The Ripcord figure of the HasLab stuff, I don't want to tear it apart. I do like it. I appreciate that we're getting it. But yeah, there's some things that I think that I would like to be a little bit closer to the original Night Force team. Like, the accessories probably should all be black, because the only accessories in the original Night Force run were ones that actually had 2 colors on the accessories on the original figure, in ways that it kind of wouldn't have made sense to drop those colors.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do Lightfoot with just a black helmet. They needed to be black with some other color on the lenses, and they chose red, which was awesome.
Oh yeah, that's one of the most beautiful upgrades ever, I think, as a figure.
Yeah, and if they do more Night Force figures, I would like to see more brown and blue and green, because Night Force isn't, well, there is green on Ripcord, but Night Force isn't just all black or black with red, or black with green. So,
absolutely. Yeah, there's
a lot like Crazy Legs. So in that sense, your skydiving Night Force team will actually look pretty good together.
Yeah, they've
I'm still stuck on it.
They've definitely done like an homage to Crazy Legs deco there, I think. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, though, I do like the fact that Ripcord's now added to the team. It's like a nice, I don't know, just like a nice feeling within it that we've got another new character in that sub-team. And I like the thought of them maybe going for, like, obviously we've talked about like Tiger Force and how it would be great if they did like the Euro Tiger Force, but also it'd be great if they could do, Sabretooth the other Tiger Force that was right. Torpedo. Recondo's deco could be fun to redo, couldn't it? Like in a different way as well, like as maybe like 2 different versions of him.
Right, and the way that we talked about those decos in the panel at Assembly Required, but all those other decos ended up being reused, because you have the canceled figures of Recondo, and Recondo's original original Tiger Force deco ended up on Flint.
Yep.
And the Wild Bill deco ended up on Recondo. And then I think that the other one that I can remember is the Wreckage / Sabretooth deco ended up on
not Jinx, right?
No. It ended up on Bazooka. Bazooka, if you look at the colors of his pants, some of those Pantone colors in that design was similar to how Sabretooth was going to look. But then, of course, with the big white shirt, they had to change things up.
Yeah.
fact that it had the big 14 on it and make it match.
I see what you're saying now. Yeah, obviously Jinx came out.
But the color of his head ended up as Bazooka's helmet as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see that. Yeah. And obviously Jinx came out much later, so I see what you're getting at within that vintage time
Yeah,
period.
within that vintage line where they were dropping those figures, they were taking those decos and putting them on the figures that had not yet been planned.
I mean, I would personally love to see them release Torpedo finally. And also obviously a bit of guesswork going on with the rest of the design, but they must have, as being at HasLab, I say they must have. We know that isn't necessarily the case. I would be going through those blooming. If I had the opportunity, I would be sifting through those archives for any photographic evidence from that photo set of those Tiger Force Dio catalog images, because there must be some in there because I mean I've seen loads of visionaries behind the scenes Polaroids taken of the figures like before they went into their Dio shots and everything, and they took loads of Polaroids of all of the figures as they were decoed, done up, dressed up, made. So I'm just assuming that something like that exists for this, but I don't think it's been found, or if it has, it's being kept close to the chest, isn't it, at this point?
You mean specifically for Torpedo?
Specifically for Torpedo, yes.
Yeah, he's a weird one. The only way that people even know that he existed was the fact that the Toy Fair catalog shows him sitting there inside the water moccasin repaint. So he's kind of deep down in there, and you could just see the top of his head. And yeah, so they had a Torpedo planned. Whether or not he was going to be a single figure or potentially included with a vehicle, who knows?
How funny would it be if we found out that they only painted his head? Or they only painted the top bit and were like, here's the figure, and it just stops at like there. Like the guy was just like, we only need to paint this bit. There you go. He's done. Like a proper guerrilla warfare maneuver. That's why there's nothing that exists of him, if you know what I mean.
That wouldn't be a first. Sometimes that is how those figures were done. But even if that's the case, Tiger Force Torpedo lives in our mind as a legend, and therefore it's something that we have wanted for years, and would be great if that one actually came out. I would love to see them actually dig through the archives and find what it should have looked like.
Oh, that'd be great.
But I can't really think of what character it would have transferred over to whenever I was talking about like how the canceled characters ended up as somebody. So who knows? Maybe it didn't end up on anyone. There is that the Fun School Torpedo that is yellow that could have been based on that. So it's possible that if you look at the Fun School Torpedo and add stripes in your mind, maybe it's somewhat similar, because Fun School would add and drop colors from things all the time. So a very different version of the Fun School one could be what we should be looking for.
Do you know, I could envision them doing like Shipwreck and Airtight as well as O-Ring Tiger Force figures. I could see them doing that kind of foreign homage, because obviously they're quite, there's been a precedent of that in Outback. In the classified line, doing like foreign versions, and you could argue also Forastero, I suppose. So I mean, and Glenda, obviously the Glenda homage, Deco homage on Flight Suit Scarlet, which he has said that's where the homage comes from. So they're definitely thinking about this stuff, and I think that we could probably see that. And also, talking of Ripcord, you've got the Python Patrol repaint from South America, haven't you?
Yeah, and a lot of people want to change things up a little bit. You probably could change up Shipwreck, because Marujo actually did not have Shipwreck's arms. So if they released a Tiger Force Shipwreck and made him a little sturdier so his thumbs didn't always break off, because that is a problem with Marujo. He's not made with quite the same plastic as the American one, and the HasLab stuff. I'm certain that those are going to be some very sturdy thumbs on all those. So no matter what they do, that's going to be good. Here's one for you though. You mentioned Forastero, and that's an interesting thing, because is it a different character than Outback? One of the characters that never gets visited that I think would really be cool to see out of an O-Ring line and somehow make him different than the original one is Ton Up.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Turn up
Yeah.
/ rock and roll, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're going to make a rock and roll, figure out something. That's where I would like to see them get creative to make something so that we get a ton up that isn't rock and roll. Is it going to be rock and roll, but in gray to match like Zap / Dolphin or Moon Dancer? Yeah. So would you do that with it, or would they come up with something else? I would like to see ton up. I'm weird. I have all these ideas and things that I want to see out of this O-ring line. I'm so excited.
Oh mate, I'm happy as well. Like I'm happy you're buzzing over it, because I am too. The thought of like all of the new things that could be brought into this. Things like, not the Sunbow cartoon. You'd have like the helmets off, and you'd have the heads like heads and everything out, like barbecue and airtight and many others. I'm liking the thought that we might get O-ring versions of those kind of helmetless kind of characters and figures. Wetsuits, another one. I watched Joe's Night Out the other day. I was watching like pretty much back-to-back episodes in the background of the Sunbow cartoon, and there's this one episode, Joe's Night Out, where they go to this like new restaurant, which is it's like a kind of like a Space Needle style restaurant at the top of the the building. Turns out to be a Cobra front, and they're basically it's a shuttle, and it flies off into the into space, and Wetsuit goes out to this club wearing his actual wetsuit gear with no helmet, and Leatherneck's in all of his gear, and Dial Tone's in all of his gear. They just don't have like their accessories. It's the funniest thing ever. Like, we're going to go out to a club. Should we not get changed? No, let's just wear what we're wearing and go out like that. Amazing. But I'd love to see that kind of thing happen, going forward with the O-ring line. And then obviously the multitude of characters that haven't been done, from the comics to the unreleased figures. I mean, I don't know about you, but I am really excited at the prospect with this whole Night Force talk of the Night Force Hit and Run O-ring figure, and based on the vehicle driver concept for the tank.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been Hit and Run.
We talked about this, didn't we? Like, it was using the Hit and Run figure as the character for the driver. But that's what I'm excited for, is for like a Night Force version of that particular figure.
Right. It would be nice to finally see that happen. I think that A Real American Book has posted that on his blog. Tim has that up there, and he has I think he actually has all the Pantone colors and everything listed.
Oh yeah, it's a great blog.
And then the club, I think, based their Night Force Hit and Run off of that.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't know if those particular shades are shades that match Night Force, but for me, that's probably one where I would want it to. If they're going to release it as Night Force Hit and Run, I'd probably still want it to deviate and match what we would have gotten in that original figure. And then I think Dan Klingensmith posted a video recently featuring all of that. And in that video, they actually called out, finally, we heard the name of that character, and it was Steeler.
Wow. So it'd be a Night Force Steeler in...
I don't think it would have been Night Force.
Well, okay, yeah. So it was just going to be just a standard deco and everything. It's funny when you see these concepts where your mind puts things. Do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously the deco does kind of have that. It does have that kind of Night Force feel to it.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But I agree. Yeah, you're right on that. 100%. That's so cool. So it would have been obviously it would have been the Steeler, a new version of. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it would have been a new version of Steeler, because late in the run they were trying to go back and use some sculpts that had just not been used in a while. I think to make what was on the shelf as different as possible, so there'd be more variety for kids just getting into G.I. Joe. And that was going to be the Iron Panther tank would have come with a redeco of the original Hit and Run figure. He would have been called Steeler. And I'm just saying all this to make it clear.
Covering all the bases.
Yeah. It would have been named Steeler. It would have kind of looked like a Night Force figure. So therefore, whenever the club was making their Night Force set, they homaged that and released a Night Force Hit and Run.
Awesome. Thanks for doing all the details on that one, Pat. Appreciate it. But yeah, like I talk a lot of the time when I talk about this stuff, assuming that people know all of this already. I wasn't aware of the Steeler thing. That's awesome. And I will have the blog that Tim Finn does, the Real American Hero blog, link to that particular article, that particular blog article in the links just below, because it's a really good one to read if you're not fully versed up on that information. It's really cool. And it's great to see, like, it's like, the deco call out sheet, isn't it? It's really cool to see that, and like the input drawing and everything. It's so neat. Love that a lot. In my head, he's already, like, I feel like he fits Night Force as well. Like, I feel like Hitman does fit Night Force. So if they were to do, if the homage would be to put him in Night Force as Hit and Run in that deco, I'd be 100% cool with that. Because it would be a bit of a stretch to call him Stealer in my head, being so obviously Hit and Run.
Right. Although, for me, I would also be A-OK with them releasing Hit and Run, releasing
Tiger Force Hit and Run,
maybe a Tiger Force Hit and Run, releasing a Night Force Hit and Run that, you know, follows the patterns of Night Force from the time, because Run actually was a character that you know had been released along with the other characters of Night Force. You know what I mean? Because
they probably didn't use him because he's already kind of, you know, he's already dark,
right?
green,
It's probably pretty similar already, so that's probably why they wouldn't have used him. So it's not like Lightfoot where you were getting a completely different looking character.
They clearly used characters, didn't they? That could translate nicely and clearly look different. Like, you know, obviously Outback was the white shirt. That's now like grey with the green arms. You had or green with the grey arms. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's grey body, green arms.
It is, yeah.
And then you've got obviously Lightfoot going from like bright yellow and orange and red and blue, and, you know, going to all these like the brown and everything like that. It's just really, really gorgeous kind of transfer there. Who else is in that team? I suppose like
Crazy Legs in red.
Red and grey.
Yeah. So that made him very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be happy to take both
Spearhead and Max
Hit and Run and Stealer. But yeah, Spearhead and Max were bright orange.
Yeah, orange and tan. Yeah, my goodness.
Yeah, how do you suppose that agreement works? Where he's like, Max, we're on Night Force now. You know, jump Bath of Dye.
I can just imagine the team like getting their new papers, and I can just see them all going, hang on, it says in here I've got to dye my hair. It says in here I've got to dye my cat's hair. What the hell's going on here? I don't know who wrote these orders. Outback just got older. He just got much older in a short period of time. Amazing. I must admit though, I think it makes it even more enjoyable for me to see these characters. And obviously Outback, it wasn't in Night Force that you had the white hair. It was in Tiger Force. But like, I like the fact that they did that they changed all sorts of aspects of the deco, including their hair, which you'd think that wouldn't change. Like, you wouldn't change that. Do you know what I mean? But the fact that they do that is just, I don't know, it adds even more charm to it for me.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. Whenever you think of like the Duke and Hawk kind of angle, where Duke and Hawk kind of needed to be differentiated from each other in the comics and things like that. So you have Hawk was introduced, and he's like the blonde leader of G.I. Joe, and then they introduced Duke as the same. So they switch Hawk over to having brown hair, but then Tiger Force Duke comes out. Brown hair.
It was so weird, that, and I loved it. Roadblock's the only one that gets away with it. He's like, I don't know, I've got no hair, so
maybe with Outback, he actually has gray hair, and the Tiger Force one is the one that has been out in the wild longer and hasn't been anywhere near civilization in order to get another bottle of hair dye.
Get his orange hair dye.
Yeah.
Of all the colours Outback, you chose that. It's I find that whole thing fascinating as well, like the choices that go behind those kind of things. But yeah, like Max, Spearhead and Max, the fact that the cat is a different colour is just amazing to me. I love that.
Who's going to dye the cat? That's what I want to know. Like, giving a cat a bath, giving a cat a bath. Maybe he's exposed or something. He just A lot of hose.
I shared a video probably last year now, maybe might have been longer than that, but it was of a bobcat jumping across like a lake, and it's incredible. Like, it's in slow motion, and you see it. And
I think I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always think about that when I think about Max, and I just think about it being such a weird combination of character and animal companion. Because obviously they were obviously thinking it'd be nice to get like a cat animal companion, but obviously cats in tactical military scenarios, dogs, yeah, but cats. So I like the thought. I just love the thought of them like knocking grenades off tables and stuff like that. Just like peeing in a Cobra Trooper's shoes or something. Just hilarious stuff that cats do. Doing in the most random places. That, it would just be like the cat would be used for like inconveniencing, Cobra, as opposed to like dogs that are like sniffing things out and, attacking people and all sorts. It's just hilarious. I love the thought of an actual cat. And yeah, that Max is perfect for that. Just like anyway, yeah. Well, I'm glad that this HasLab talk got off the most ridiculous tangent ever. But there we have it. Yeah, massive news this week. I suppose we should get into shout-outs, Pat, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Right, you can go first, buddy, for shout-outs.
Well, shout out to you, who's going to edit this episode that we talked for 45 minutes just on somehow on the HasLab.
It's going to be the thing that kills it for me is the fact that we name a different character every 6 seconds, and it's like getting the image for that and putting that up. So yeah, that's what kills me. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. And then of course always to Philip, and I think that's actually it this week. I think I'm solid again.
You're done. That's it.
I'm done.
Okay, well, I've got a few. So, as always, big shout out to all the family and to my wonderful wife, Kate. Love you all. Mum and Dad are here next week, so cannot wait to see. It's been the first time seeing them in 2 years. Cannot wait. Also, big shout out to my old house in Munsley in Norfolk for getting on the news for all the wrong reasons, unfortunately. A huge cliff collapse happened on Thursday morning, very close to the home I grew up in. Some amazing drone footage was posted that showed the extent of the damage, and thankfully nobody was hurt, and there was no damage to the houses closest to the event, so that is somewhat comforting. But it was pretty, shocking to see. And interestingly enough, when we moved out of that house in 2001, a similar thing happened just down the way from our house as well. A big, huge collapse from basically it's rain erosion. So you get a lot of rain and it kind of cuts into this kind of very it's not the most solid of foundations. It's very kind of sandy, very soft kind of soil, and it just basically cuts huge segments out of the cliff. And that's two now in the last 20 odd years, two big kind of cliff collapses. When we were there, they were talking it wouldn't be hundreds of years before it kind of reached, our houses. Probably isn't the case at this stage. We're probably looking a lot sooner. So I want to go back soon and see the place and see the kind of area again before it kind of really does end up in the sea. It's such a shame, really. It's really sad. But I got some cracking pictures of me, Dad, Grandad, and Uncle Norman playing, I think, cricket down the driveway of our house, and I'm dressed in. I've got elbow pads and knee pads, not because I was super safe, but because I was playing on my skateboard that day as well. And yeah, it's just a cracking image of me in the backyard with Uncle Norman rocking a Too Bad Masters of the Universe vest. Pat, how awesome was that? Did you see that picture?
I saw both of those pictures, actually. Yeah, it's fun to see a young version of you. It made me think that you should just make that as a shirt for yourself now.
Totally. And that small as well.
The place do a photo recreation.
Wearing the vest and the tiniest shorts ever. Those shorts were dangerously short. Yeah, I look like John Stockton.
Yeah, so we talked jumper and sweater. So that's a vest?
Oh yeah, it's a proper vest. Yeah,
over here that's a tank top.
Oh, okay, yeah, tank top. Okay. Yeah, tank top in the US, vest in the United Kingdom. And it's also it's got the kind of the edge, the piping, the blue kind of around the collar and the arms as well. So it's proper.
Yeah,
cool. I love that.
It has a very classic 80s style shirt for sure.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Good one. It did start making me wonder what shirts were available to you, because I don't think I've ever seen that shirt before.
I know,
but it could be this Masters universe, but
it's proper random as well. Like I forgot I had it. I remember obviously Too Bad was a character I really enjoyed as a figure, like proper chunky, you know, really fun gimmick. The two punching arms and everything, and like I really like that figure. And I remember having that shirt, but I don't. Well, I remember. Funny enough, I remembered the design, but I don't remember it being on the shirt. So like it's weird when you see these pictures. You're like, God, I don't recall that at all. But yeah, really dope t-shirt or vest, I should say, tank top. But yeah. I'll be. I don't think I have it anymore though. I'm pretty sure that's gone, which is a real shame because if I still had that, I would definitely do a recreation in that vest
and just put it on and the shorts.
Yeah, I actually there was I've got another recreation, a picture of my dad and my brother David. Just the three of us, kind of like recreated the image like years later when we all kind of met up again. And I did actually have that the blue Steve Bruce soccer school T-shirt, and I was like, guys, can I just put this on and take the picture? I should have done, but it was tight, man. Like it was like I didn't want to rip it or damage it, so yeah. But you got away with that one. Anyway, yeah, massive shout out to my old house at Munsley. Super sad to see the cliff kind of come, like, you know, like shifting into the sea. And hopefully it, you know, is still there when I can get back in next year. Also, shout out to legendary comic artist George Perez, who posted a truly heartbreaking message to fans, friends, and extended family in the week. He found out that he has stage 3 pancreatic cancer and has been told he only has 6 months to a year left to live. It's incredibly tragic, but all power to the man for putting it all out there on social media and seemingly taking the news head on like the absolute hero he is. Did you see that, Pat, that news? I guess you did.
I did. It's really, yeah, that's really unfortunate. He definitely was one of the creatives that worked really closely with fans. And so it's especially sad because so many people really did know him personally.
Yeah, it sucks, man. But again, like I think Larry posted the thing saying, let's not kill him just yet. You know, it's like, you know, let's kind of celebrate his life more than anything else. And also kind of, that's kind of like from what I could gather from his post is kind of the way he's dealing with that kind of situation. So it's still hugely sad and depressing and horrible for the family and all that kind of stuff. But again,
yeah, here I am even talking about him in the past, and I feel bad about that. Larry's totally right. It's, you know, he should have the opportunity to have the next few months the way that he wants to have it. So it's great that we still have the ability to let him know how much he's meant to everybody.
Absolutely. And I think that obviously the comments and the messages poured in as well. So just incredible stuff, and also, you know, truly sad, but then at the same time, like we've said, let's be positive and let's enjoy him while he's here, and the same for him to live his life in what he has left. But anyway, yeah, so big shout out to George Perez, to Brian Sauer for the awesome Tiger Force Fall graphics, as always, which are just amazing and are going to be changing as of the 21st of December. I've been saying it's like the 12th, but winter officially kicks off on the 21st. So we'll be switching over to winter graphics accordingly very soon. And we've got like a nice little idea planned, so they should be pretty cool. Massive shout out to Emily, Lenny, and the entire Hasbro G.I. Joe team for a hugely successful HasLab campaign. What a ride that was. And we will also kind of commiserate for the Star Wars, the Black Series team, for not reaching the Rancor funding goal, which I still am struggling to come to terms with, because I wasn't even in for it, but like I felt really sad that it didn't make it, you know, and I think it's truly a cool ass thing to have, and I really hope they do kind of, you know, as we talked about it earlier, I hope they come up with a way to kind of bring it out in the future. Also, it was Kirk Bazigian's birthday this past week, so shout out to Kirk on that one. Obviously, Carson 3D Joes put up a lovely post. Loads of people did. We ended up sharing Carson's because it was just, you know, brilliant and everything that, you know, we would have liked to say as well. So big shout out to Kirk on his birthday. He's only 22. Amazing, isn't it?
I passed him up somehow.
He's Benjamin Button. That's how that works. Well, yeah, I should probably also talk about my Micro Machines calendar. But I've been really slack on it recently because I've been so busy. I haven't been able to open all my recent days. But I did get this this beauty, which you can see on screen. A little bulldozer. Isn't that awesome? With working...
Looks very icy and Christmassy.
I know, it's great, isn't it? I love that. It's got that like cool little tamper on the front as well, like ice and stuff. Yeah, I like that. Very nice. Again, I'm really behind. I've got about 4 days to open on that, so I just wanted to show off my bulldozer. Were there any others? I think that's it from last week. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Any other things, Pat? Have you got any cool stuff in your advent calendar?
Lately I've been getting some pieces for some things, so I think that it's building up to something coming soon. I'm not quite sure. I know that there's still a few figures in the advent calendar, and I haven't gotten those. So we'll see.
It always sucks when you get a part of something that doesn't quite work yet, and you've got to wait like 3 days before you can build it. But that is a really fun advent calendar. I can't wait to see that all together. Anyway, yeah, that brings us to the end. That brings us to the end of the episode. Of course, we continue to support the LGBTQ+ community. And as always, stand fast with the Asian and Pacific Islander communities in saying stop Asian hate. We do not discriminate against any minority and want the show to be a fun and safe environment for anybody, no matter their background. To all our patrons, listeners, viewers, thanks for tuning into our awesome live stream this week. It was a lot of fun. And if not a lot of work trying to keep up with trying to answer all those comments and questions and stuff. It really is difficult, guys. Like, even if you to get like a few comments, it's difficult to keep up with it because you want to talk and you want to answer them and you want to speak about them, and people just go bang 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 bang, and you're like, and I was probably about 25 minutes behind at one point. So yeah, it's hard to kind of keep track of that, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and it was great interaction and loads of fun, and it was great to kind of like enjoy the HasLab ticking over at the same time as well. That was great. Also, people were blaming me. They thought I'd caused the issues online in order to be the one to kind of break the the news, which I thought was really funny and hilarious. And also, yeah, I will take full responsibility for that. Anyway, yeah, big shout out to all our patrons and listeners and viewers. We appreciate all the support. Pat, mate, thank you for jumping on again for another really long episode somehow.
Yeah, it's fun. I had so much fun with the HasLab, and it's just kind of fun to have the opportunity to talk to you about it and really dig in.
Absolutely. We've got loads coming up. We've got obviously our Christmas special coming up. We've got our New Year's. Well, actually, it's going to be a monthly episode. That's going to be the New Year's special. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone rather than just killing myself. And yeah, we're going to have a lot more kind of coming over the next few weeks as well, guys. More live stuff, more all sorts. So stick with the full force. You know it's the right thing to do. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for watching the Full Force Weekly. Massive thank you to my awesome co-host, Patrick Notpicard Stewart. See you next time. And as always, 1, 2, 3, Full Force! Done. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force!